We're back on the Pro Car Champ Series at Lakeside Raceway, getting set for race 2 in the third round of the Century Batteries Australian GT Production Car Championship. Brian Carr will carry one of our Pro Car Champ Series onboards, and the other will be carried by Rob Chadwick. Here he is in the Mitsubishi Magna. Both drivers had a good, strong run in the opening encounter. The man they're all trying to stop is Scott Loadsman. He took pole and the opening race win. Daryl Kuhn finished second. Row 2, Brian Carr and Chadwick, who we've just seen. Richard Winston and David Russell from the third. Carol Jackson and Ben Driscoll. What a classic battle they had in E-Class in the opening race, Steve Betts.
Yeah, fantastic race. Rick Bates on position number 9 alongside John McElroy, who had the blown tyre earlier on, so we'll see him come through from the back. Luke Yulden with some engine drama, and Holgerson, of course, coming through from the back as well, so that's going to make this race extremely exciting to watch.
Holgerson had a wild ride as he came into the kink, set for a start here at Lakeside. Can we get a better one this time around from Scotty Loadsman in the V8? He's certainly a lot stronger this time and will fight with Daryl Kuhn, but no, Kuhn muscles past him, so does Brian Carr and Chadwick. So Loadsman has still got to come to terms with the starts in this big 5.7 litre SS Commodore. The guys up ahead of him have just muscled their way past. McElroy off the back of the grid has even gotten past our pole sitter. That's incredible.
Fantastic stuff, and I tell you what, Rusty, I don't think there's any doubt at all that Scott Loadsman has a problem, and that off the start line, Damien, that would possibly mean something in the gearbox or even a clutch.
More than likely a clutch in the gearbox. If it was the gearbox, I can't see that he'd be continuing the race as he is, but then again, he could have just missed the start altogether, could have missed the lights.
Well, coming to terms with a new car presents a number of difficulties. Here's Rob Chadwick. Through Hungry Corner, listen to those tyres squeal on the opening lap.
He's working those tyres hard early in the race. I don't know what his plan is here, but you work these tyres too hard early in a race at Lakeside and you're going to struggle towards the end, that's for sure.
Yeah, Daryl Kuhn got a nice, comfortable lead just ahead of Brian Carr. Chadwick in third place. This field has settled down fairly early in this race to some nice positions, but don't forget the cars that are coming through from behind. This is going to be a very tough race as it progresses.
Sure is, Steve, and as you see Chadwick there in third position, he got 4th in race 1 today, so if he can manage to maintain third, that'll do his championship hopes a lot of good.
A glimpse in the background there of the Proton Satry, a little sideways as he came through the carousel. That is David Russell. He won the class in the opening race, but he's 5th outright at the moment. That's an astonishing performance up against the might and muscle of some of the bigger cars around him.
Yeah, and also we can see that same sort of effect happening here right now with Carol Jackson right in amongst it with the V8s and the Toyota Camry there. Toyota Camry rounding her up through this very fast back section underneath the Grand Prix Jaguar bridge. Carol Jackson is performed very strongly there. We see David Russell giving Scott Loadsman a big hurry up. In fact, in front of him there and holding the position quite well.
Word.
Sorry, Greg, I went and spoke to Alan after race 1 and asked him what did happen as he braked for the carousel, and I started to make the point about how the back of the car was maybe a bit light, and he just said, no, I just made a mistake. So pure driver error.
Word from the pits we understand is that Scott Loadsman did have some clutch trouble getting off the line, and there is a serious question mark over whether that clutch will last this race. He manages to get around Russell using the power of the 5.7 litre Commodore, but he's got a lot of work to do up ahead of him. Richard Winston in behind there in the black Commodore. But this is a great performance in the Proton Satria from David Russell. We have been used to seeing Kozi Kalazidis in this mark in recent years, but he's gotten Russell on board, and at this stage has proven to be a wise decision. Sorry
to cut you off there, Greg. It's true that Russell's doing a fantastic job in the Proton, but Scott Loadsman with that clutch gone, he's not going to have any problem finishing this race. He's just got to take a few Valium, just relax, realise that there's a whole championship ahead of him. He should just, if he doesn't feel as though he can win, at least consolidate, accept that there's a problem with the car, and just make sure he gets some good valuable points.
And Damien, for the people listening on the Pro Car Champ Series event today and the show, obviously the thought of a racer out there actually, and look at this, a big one. Big moment between, looked like Richard Winston and Holgerson. Holgerson not in any sort of luck this weekend. He's got the back end of the car off the track and will get back on, but what a disappointment. That was a big moment between those two races.
I could make some jokes about lawn bowls and him finding the lawn again, but I won't. He's just got a little bit impatient there. That is a, dare I say, crazy corner to try that move. Unless you're absolutely in and past the guy on your left, you shouldn't be making that sort of move at Lakeside.
The Pro Car Champ Series onboard shows you just how hard Rob Chadwick is trying around the Lakeside circuit. He's using the ripple strips in a lot of places. In behind him here, John McElroy. Keep in mind he had that heart-stopping moment when he blew uncharacteristically the front right tyre in the opening race. That put him out. This is a notoriously tough circuit on tyres, but it's particularly the tyres down the left-hand side of the car that do most of the work. The back left in particular, Damien, is the one that tends to get tortured.
It gets worked hard, big time over at what we call a roller coaster from the top of the mountain down. But the right-hand side front tyre gets hardly any work, only through the left-hand of Hungary, which, okay, it's a fast corner, but it seemed very strange to me today. We see a replay of Alan. If you can have a look there, he's no way he's going to go through that corner. For those of you at home, that is probably a fourth gear corner, 120 kilometres an hour, and like I said before, unless you're in there, past the guy, don't do it.
Well, yeah, it's a big manoeuvre to try and pull off there, and a very difficult one to actually succeed in at that sort of speed. I was going to say to you before, Damien, with the gearbox in Loadsman's car, with this clutch that we believe has gone in his car, tell us for the folks at home, in fact, how he is changing gears. It's obviously something that's very interesting to think about.
Actually, no doubt he's got problems with the clutch. I mean, it's come back to his crew and made its way up here to us, but problems with his clutch, but I wouldn't say it's completely dead. I can't see him maintaining that speed if it was totally gone.
Is it a case of just trying to flat change in the right way if it is that bad?
It just depends what the problem exactly is, but if you can match I mean, you can drive your car from your driveway down to the shop without the clutch if you match the revs, so maybe it's just a case of him doing that.
Not recommended though, hey?
Not recommended, no.
On board with Brian Carr in the Falcon, up ahead of him Daryl Kuhn. Keep in mind, this is the battle for the outright lead. Kuhn in all sorts of trouble there as he came through Hungary corner, got the right-hand side tyres off into the dirt. That has mucked up his line, but he's gathered it at the top of the hill here.
You see that a lot on that corner because on the exit it's a bit blind because it's uphill with the strips across the top of the windscreen. It sounds bizarre, but you can't actually see what's up ahead because of the angle of the hill. TV doesn't quite show it, but perhaps I'm making a few excuses there for our mate Mr. Kuhn. He's feeling a lot of pressure from Carr behind him, and I think Carr's doing a great job. Well, and let's just hope that Kuhn can keep it where it is on the black stuff.
Well, that's the game plan for Daryl Kuhn, because he finished second in the opening race. He leads this championship. If he can win this one, more valuable championship points. Now, the view there through Rob Chadwick's onboard, you could see a position change up ahead of him. Scotty Loadsman picked off another one, so he's managed to get around McElroy and up into third position. There you have it. There's the white 5.7 litre SS Commodore. So this is a meteoric charge back up the order from almost last place after that disastrous start. Now Brian Carr sensing that he'll be under pressure fairly shortly and trying to force Daryl Kuhn into some sort of error. Gee, that's a different line by Kuhn heading to the top of the hill.
That right-hand corner at the top of the hill, it seems to introduce a lot of different lines from a lot of different drivers over the years. I tend to take a shallower entry than what Kuhn has taken, simply for the fact that if you've got someone right behind you, if you go out wide like Kuhn is doing, it just invites that person to think, hey, there's a hole there, I'm going to throw myself in there. And we'll see an incident as what happened with Holgersson at the bottom of the hill.
Yeah, now Loadsman, Damien, doing a fine job here. He's now creeping back up onto the tail end of Brian Carr there. These guys have had a fantastic race all day so far in this second race. And Carr is trying everything he possibly can to get around Daryl Kuhn. But now Loadsman is about to be in the picture. We see Richard Winston out there in the 5-litre Holden Commodore, still doing a fine job there.
And just for the ladies and gentlemen at home, I can tell you that Mr. Winston still has his registration label on the car. These are production models. Does that mean he drives it on the road, Steve?
I think it does. In fact, exactly what they can do in these cars. And we see now that Loadsman is through on Carr into second place. What a fantastic drive this is for Scott Loadsman out there in the brand new VX SS Holden Commodore. He's now into second place, right behind Daryl Kuhn.
That's a vital passing move too, because that's moved him into the lead of the Poolwright V8 Touring class. Brian Carr now back to third and second in that class. Can this man, Scott Loadsman, up ahead of us, take the lead?
Well, the pressure of trying to win races for a championship, if that's not hard enough, doing it without a clutch, I'm pretty impressed. If his clutch is gone, as we're led to believe, he's doing a fantastic job.
Well, he'll be trying to match the revs on both the up and down change as best he can, and that is not an easy task, as Damien mentioned before. Into the carousel once again. Kuhn gets a little bit of an advantage. Brian Carr right up onto the back of Scott Loadsman.
And you may have noticed there as Carr was going through the carousel that these brake lights were on middle of the two corners, which may seem a little unusual, but what he's probably trying to do as the race goes on, his tyres are getting a little bit too hot, the tyres may be going off, and just trailing the brake with your left foot just balances the car a little bit mid-corner.
Now, John McElroy. Valuable championship points needed for this man. No points in the opening race here at Lakeside today after that blown tyre. Loadsman, can he find a way past Daryl Kuhn, who is using every inch of the track, the Victorian?
Now he's just got to get some of Carroll Jackson's Valium and calm himself down. Of course, he doesn't know about the problems Loadsman is experiencing with his clutch, but to win the race outright in a Class C car is a big thing for Darryl, and I'm sure that he's just trying that extra bit hard to achieve that.
Well, he's no stranger to doing it. Keep in mind, he's the reigning champion in C class, the six-cylinder touring class. Into the carousel again, you ride with Brian Carr. Up ahead is Scott Loadsman, our race 1 winner and pole sitter here today. A 60.57, so that Commodore is certainly capable of some quick times. You can hear it right on the rev limit as it come across the top there before the change.
But you can pick up the difference between the two cars once again based a little bit on the weight. The lighter weight of the XR6 Falcon seems to drive out of the turns just that little bit better. It's got a bit of better exit speed. Loadsman seems to reel him in once the track straightens out a little bit and they get out of the corner. It's a very tough battle, and this is going to be a wonderful race. Brian Carr now right onto the back of Loadsman. These three guys are watching each other intensely through the windscreen, out the back window, in the windows, the mirrors down the side. They're watching him everywhere to see who's going to make a move.
Holgerson, look at that.
And the lights are ablaze on Kuhn. He knows that Holgerson's in the same class, and is he going to be a threat to him even though they're a lap behind? I mean, I don't think Holgerson's going to be playing any games. He'll know they're coming, and I'm sure he'll get out of the way.
Less than 2 laps remain for Darryl Kuhn. Can he hold out Scott Loadsman?
I'm sure he will, Greg, because whilst Steve pointed out that the VX has got the legs at the top end of the straight, what he's going to find is if he throws the car underneath, he's got no problem with his brakes, but in going down the gears to help pull up the car without a clutch, he's going to have great difficulty doing that. So my guess is he's going to settle for second.
Tough day at the office for Alan Holgerson in the Toyota Camry. Such a strong outing at the last round at Phillip Island, but today has not gone his way. A big spin in the opening race, and now dramas in this one as well. So the Toyota Camry driver will hopefully come back on strong at the next round of the championship at Willowbank.
It's quite amazing. I mean, Darryl Kuhn has just got this ability through Hungary there and over the top of the hill to just pull out those few extra car lengths, and you'll see down this main straight now, you'll see where Scott Loadsman will start to reel him in. Can he do it? This looks like it is 1 lap to go. 1 lap to go for Darryl Kuhn, and this is going to be a tough race through to the finish.
You guys touched on the fact before that it's all about the momentum. Is that a hard thing to maintain around a roller coaster ride circuit like this?
Yeah, it can be, Greg, and it's usually at the end of the race we have the problems because your tyres start to go off as they get too hot. And as we see Chadwick, who was earlier in the race in 3rd, he's fallen back to sort of 5th or 6th, and that's probably the reason why.
Yep. It's a tough place on tyres. We've made that statement a couple of times during the race. Rob Chadwick loses another spot. No dramas for this man at this stage. Darryl Kuhn. Can Scott Loadsman hang on to second? He is under incredible pressure here from Brian Carr, and Carr's got his own issues. Oh, a bit of a touch too. So Brian Carr giving Loadsman a real nudge as they head down the hill for the final time. It should be a case of status quo. McElroy will finish in 4th, in behind Brian Carr. But what about this effort in the 6-cylinder Ford XR6? Darryl Kuhn, the reigning champion in Class D, will take the outright honours. Scott Loadsman on debut second. Photo for the final spot on the podium. And that should have gone to Brian Carr just ahead of McElroy.
And if we have a look back on the main straight, we should see the Class E competitors, but there's one very happy Darryl Kuhn.
And absolutely so. He should be happy taking out Class D today and probably the day outright, but he better be careful he doesn't throw his arm out the window there.
Class E going to David Russell in the end in the Proton Satria, but a really solid effort in the Honda Civic for Carol Jackson. 2 starts and 2 second places. Darryl Kuhn, your outright winner and winner in Class D. Scott Loadsman takes out the Poolright V8 Touring class in 2nd spot. Brian Carr 3rd, McElroy 4th. We go further back. There's David Russell 7th outright, and the winner in E-Class, Ben Driscoll 9th, and Rick Bates rounds out the top 10 here at Lakeside.
So come on, mate. How are you? Well done. You've held out the V8s. You've done a great job today.
Well, we're obviously not very excited. We're just taking this one in our stride. Nah, in all seriousness, we didn't expect to win overall. To even get close to the best that Holden have to offer with their 5.7 litre Holden engine and beat it. Like, not just be there with it, but actually finish in front. It just, words can't explain it.
Scotty Loadsman, that VX combo looks sensational, but it looks like you just might be struggling with the starts.
Mate, it's a clutch. We dropped the clutch over here, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, no go. Then we drove the whole race with no clutch, so I was just changing down gears, just jammed in there, just no clutch at all, it's gone.
What sort of potential does it have for the remainder of the season, Scott?
Well, there it is. It's very quick. It's its maiden voyage, and corners, got plenty of grunt, so look out the Ford boys.
We'll see you at the next
coming back.
round.
Good on you, mate.
Good luck. Well, David Russell, not a bad championship debut in the brand new Proton. Do you have championship aspirations, although you have missed the first couple of rounds?
Oh, we do. Statistics-wise, we've sort of worked it out and calculated it, and if we keep on this sort of pace, well, yeah, certainly we can come up with a championship.
Champagne and podium time. Daryl Kuhn victorious today. No, not Michael Schumacher. John McElroy tied with Brian Carr in the lead in Class C now. Those two, 64 points. Daryl Kuhn, a massive lead in Class D over Rob Chadwick. And Luke Youlden, those dramas this weekend, those engine problems, particularly in race 1, have seen his lead slip. He's now tied with Ben Driscoll, Rick